What's up, everyone? My name is Candace, and I have a serious question for you. Have you ever had to keep your balance on something? Maybe a balance beam or a bike or a little tiny log over a stream in the woods. Or maybe you've been snowboarding or water skiing. Take a look at this. You see what I'm saying? Balancing can be so tricky. You can't just lean too far to the left or too far to the right. You can't lean too far back or too far forward. You can't go too far in any direction, because if you do, you'll probably fall. In order to stay standing and balanced, you have to stay steady and strong and right in the center. I don't know about you, but to me, this sounds a lot like life sometimes. All of us walk through life wanting to be accepted, right? We want to have friends. We want to be liked. We don't want people to turn the other way when we walk into a room. Whether we realize it or not, trying to gain acceptance takes a lot of balance. We don't want to be too quiet, or people will think that we're rude. We don't want to act like the main character all the time, or people might think that we're too into ourselves. We don't want to be forgettable, but we also don't want people talking about us behind our backs. We want attention, but we don't want to be the center of attention. We want to be included, but we don't want the pity invite. We don't want to be too much, and we don't want to be not enough. To get there, we have to create this perfectly presented version of ourselves, and that version is exactly who we think people want us to be. And that demands a lot of balancing. In fact, that kind of pressure can eventually get too heavy to carry. Let's imagine that this is you. Whatever goes in here are the things that you'll have to carry around with you day to day. We want to have friends and be accepted, so we start loading our backpack with all the things that we think will get us there. Things like, don't talk too much. Don't be too quiet. Be talented, but don't show off. I can't even get it in there. Be smart, but don't be a know-it-all. Be popular. Popularity is a hard one, but don't make people feel less than you. Don't be too much, but be enough. This backpack just got really heavy. Would you want to carry this around all the time? I sure don't. I don't even want to hold it right now. It could be a challenge to carry this around all day, but it will be extremely difficult staying balanced while you're weighed down with all of this. What's really in this bag isn't just all the pressure and the perceptions that people have of us. It's also our pridefulness. Every weight that we put in is something that we hope will change the way that people see us. It's a part of an image that we want people to have of us, and that image often comes from our own pridefulness. Even if it's hard to manage, even if we can't carry it all, even if it throws our whole lives off balance, this is what we do. We load ourselves up with these heavy bricks and we walk around weighed down by the pressure of trying to elevate ourselves in the minds of others. And even if it works for a little while, eventually that pridefulness gets way too heavy to carry. The good news for us in that is that Jesus knew that this was human nature. Jesus saw firsthand that people were walking around with the heavy weight of pride, and he wanted to help them carry that weight. Not only that, he wanted them to be free of the weight of pride once and for all. How do I know? Well, because Jesus himself said it. Take a look at this. Then Jesus said, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest." Okay, let's break this down. When Jesus began, he was talking to people who were worn out, stressed out, and exhausted from the weight of the world that they were carrying. He was talking to people who were struggling to balance it all. He was talking to people who were impacted by the pridefulness in the world around them, the pridefulness of leaders in their life, peer pressure, the government, religious rules, and regulations. But today, what does that look like? It looks like beauty standards, the pressures to perform well in school because you can only be proud if you make the best grades and get into that great college. Or maybe it looks like talent, the pressure to create the most incredible content because the coolest people do. What about the things that we feel pressured to own? Because pride says this is what it takes to be accepted. In other words, he's talking about all of us. And what did Jesus tell us to do when we feel worn out by that kind of weight in our lives? To come to him. Jesus wants you to bring your burdens or weights to him. He wants you to give up the balancing act, lay down the pressure that you feel, and give everything that you're carrying to him. When we do that, we'll get rest in return. So far, so good, right? Well, then Jesus says something kind of weird. Take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls. Yolk? Like an egg yolk? See what I mean? Weird. Why is Jesus talking about eggs? In this case, he wasn't talking about eggs, y'all. A yoke was basically a harness that went over two animals. This helped them to share the load of whatever they were pulling. In other words, they didn't have to carry that weight on their own because they had somebody else helping to distribute the weight and carry the weight with them. So when Jesus told us to take up his yoke, he was telling us to attach ourselves to him. Then we don't have to hold the weight alone. We don't have to figure everything out on our own or try to find acceptance or let pride keep us from finding balance in our lives. Instead, we can simply let Jesus lead us. Pride that exists in the world around us does not have to determine how we feel or live. Instead, Jesus says his way is lighter. It's easier because he's humble and gentle, which is different than the prideful pressures that exist in the world around us. Jesus has given you an invitation to follow him, to give up the balancing act and to let him lead you towards what's best for you, to choose humility over pridefulness and find rest when you do. Now remember, humility means freedom from pridefulness or arrogance. There's a difference between taking pride in something and being prideful. Taking pride in something simply means that you value that something. But being prideful is thinking that you're better than, or you're above, or you're superior to something. And when we choose humility, we're choosing to be who we are authentically. We're choosing to stop trying to balance it all and instead accept the help that Jesus offers to carry it with us. We're choosing to live freely and lightly, not under the pressure of acceptance from others. But this isn't always easy. In fact, it takes a lot of courage to lay down the carefully created version of yourselves and the pridefulness that tells you to protect it. It takes courage to choose to be the person that God made you to be. But I think it's something that we can all do, especially if we know that we're not doing it alone. Today, I want to challenge us to do two things. Be brave, be humble. Start to take the weight out of your own backpack. Choose to walk with a lighter load and let Jesus carry the weight of it with you. And trust that God will lead you as you go. Be brave, be humble. How do we start doing this right now? I mean, is it even possible as middle schoolers? It absolutely is. First, lay down the weight. Think about what feels heavy in your life right now. What are you trying to balance? How is the weight pressuring you to be someone that you're not? Start by taking that to God in prayer, asking for help, lay it down and find rest. And then second, be brave enough to be you. You see, being brave is releasing the weight that you carry and choosing to trust that the way of Jesus is best. That might mean stepping into the life that God created you to live. Giving up all the ways that you try to be someone else and embracing who you really are. Or letting go of all the pressures that cause you to feel like you're not enough. Or maybe it's following Jesus' example of how to live. Humility requires us to be brave, and that can be scary. But remember, you're not doing this alone. Not only do you have God to help you, but you have trusted adults like parents and guardians, as well as small group leaders too, to support you. There are people who want to encourage you to be who you are and trust God to lead you. Together, you can support each other as you move towards two big things. Be brave, be humble. Today, my prayer is that we would resist the pressure to be who other people want us to be, that we would let Jesus carry our burden and give us rest, that we would choose to be brave and be humble right now. Then, I think we'll walk toward the full life Jesus promises us. So when you head to group, think about this question. What is one brave thing you can do this week that will help you step toward humility?